Hi there. In this video I will try to power carve a beautiful designer desk lamp. The original is made by a company called Lights. I don't know them. It's just their lamp that I found on Pinterest and then pinned it. Turns out the lamp is really expensive. For this project I will be using offcuts, and my offcuts are once again someone else's offcuts. The idea is pretty simple. I will saw them in smaller bits, sand them flat because my bandsaw is really wonky, then drill a hole for a power cable to go to, glue and clamp, and then repeat that 20 times. When I started I only had a small Proxxon disc sander. It is made for mini stuff and model building, and after about 3 glue ups I bought a Makita belt sander, and that tool really saved this project. The lamp is in a weird shape. I did not make a design of any kind. I didn't even print the reference image. I really only had the memory of that image in my head. And then I left my brain and imagination to fill in the blank spots. All pieces do have an angle to them. I hope that will make the entire thing a bit more organic looking. To be able to run a power cable through all of it, I needed to drill all parts. Most of the holes I just eyeballed and went for it. Some of them had a 90-degree angle and required me to drill 2-3 times, but that's fine. My offcuts are from a pile of fancy firewood anyway, so mistakes are cheap and a new part is quickly made. And for the angles, well, the cable needs a bit of space to make that turn. Plus, I don't own anything fancy to do a better job than this. And in the end I only wasted about 2 pieces of wood. Yeah, so drill holes, not too deep, drill more holes, and hopefully find previously drilled hole. Make hole bigger, wiggle wire through it, and repeat. This groove cut is because I wanted to make this the base of the lamp. However, I made a mistake. I changed my mind, and I'll have to fix this later. The first idea was to not make this lamp any bigger, and this would then be the exit hole for the cable on the backside. I thought it would be smart to test fit everything with tape to see the end result. But, well, it required tape use skills I was not able to offer, but it was enough for me to see that this needs to be bigger to be cool and fancy like the image in my mind. In hindsight, I also should have bought a fancier lamp fitting. I decided to start the electrical parts because it was late at night. And I do have neighbors and kids and a wife. So the fitting was so cheap that it just fell apart by looking at it incorrectly. Later that week I filled that groove with an offcut of an offcut of an offcut. I could then continue with adding more offcuts to the lamp. Like I said, the belt sander is new, and yes, I should be making a support table before sanding stuff on it. So in the background you just watched a week of progress of gluing more parts onto the lamp. And I must say, I kinda like where this is going shape-wise. During the weekend I had shop time, and that means I can make noise. So let's go! Don't mind the outfit, it was super duper hot that day. And this was the first time I really got to use the aggressive cut salt disc or mahogany for a longer period of time. A wonderful feeling to go through wood like it's clay. My dust management is pretty much an open door, and the walls are there to minimize sound and contain the dust within said walls. Might be weird, but I hate a dusty workshop. So I vacuum clean everything after a session of making dust. I am still looking for something that could capture most of the dust, but the angles are constantly changing and a giant machine would just generate a lot more noise. It would also need a filter because the visible dust doesn't taste nice. It's the smallest particles that you can't see that are actually most dangerous. So I could go with a low pressure high volume system and then run all of the fine dust outside to an air filter. That would almost be silent, but then again I would still clean the filters outside. So that kinda makes it redundant and a waste of energy. Hey, leave a comment if you know something that might work. My videos have generated 3 comments, so the request is probably going nowhere, but hey, I'm just trying. In the background I broke the flex shaft of the Fordham, and turns out that's quite a expensive thing to do. So yeah, sad me. But it did give me time to consider how to attach a light switch. And I went back and forth with this one quite a bit. The main goal was to actually make a light switch and embed it into the lamp itself. I just could not for the life of me figure out how I would then have enough space to actually get the cables attached to the light switch itself. And then the solution just magically appeared. So let's back up a month when I attached the cheap light fitting. How shall I put this? It just fell out and I got really angry at it and I whipped it out entirely. The footage of whipping it out is fake, but the original version was really fit for YouTube. The next day I did calm down and I just completed carving out the lamp base. Like everything would be fine and I would somehow figure it out. Then what's left to do is carve out all the tight angles. And I love using the 15mm disc and the larger handheld size burst for this. But I already learned the price of breaking the 4-ohm cable, so I went slow here. I was really happy with the end result, so it was time for the first round of sanding. And sanding really does take forever, but really do not underestimate it. It really takes forever. I spent 12 hours sanding it just on 80 grit. And that's just to get rid of all the marks in every nook and cranny. Then I'll pop the grains and leave it overnight to dry. The next few days the lamp or other carving that I'm working on just goes with me. I'll look at it during dinner and breakfast and lunch, and then I'll make mental notes of everything I do not like about it. Then I just carve those away and start sanding again. And the reason for that is that when I'm in the dusty workspace, my mind will tell me that it is alright. You spent so long, it must be perfect. Just put some oil on that thing and call it a day. But it never is. And I'm sure I could continue doing this for a month and then still find little tool marks somewhere. I just have to go outside and hold it in the sunlight and I'll find them. So at some point I have to decide that sanding at 80 grit is good enough. You can move on to 120 now. And it's time for another detour. For a project that has been lingering around for a while now. It doesn't matter if it takes even longer, because there's no deadline to begin with. I built this spinning platform to make very cool final reveals of other projects. And then I got the opportunity to buy a 1950s pantograph. So yeah, I did that. Back to the carving. To fix my lighting issue, I bought a cheap rechargeable light. Well, two, but this one is smaller, so I hoped it would fit. It doesn't. Who would have guessed something with a battery is larger than something without it? It does have cool lights and color options, etc. But to be honest, it's still too big. It's bigger than a piece of wood it should be hidden in. And this glue was done with the smaller Proxon dish sander, so it's not really flat. And it's kind of ugly done. So chop chop. The downside of a DIY belt sander platform is that it's very annoying to remove belts or send something flat that doesn't fit the device you make. The new part is just a glue up of two other pieces for the thickness, then hollowing it out again. This also is the moment in which I can make the light shine a bit more at an angle instead of straight down. In these shots I'll pretend that my workbench is always clean without any clutter and that my measurements are very accurate because I use calipers from Temu and I really need to buy something better to make holes. Drilling 20 holes and then carving it out just takes forever, and I drilled a small hole for the USB charging port. I'll glue this thing in so I would never be able to get it out if I didn't. And then we wait. We wait for the glue to dry so we can actually continue carving this thing. I used to wait for 24 hours for the glue to dry, but really only had 2 hours, so we will see if that was a bad choice. The Fordham angle grinder is new to me and I liked it so much I got a second one. Changing the disc was really annoying, so this should solve that. So yeah, there I am, happy with my new toys, just to snap my second Fordham cable on this project. I did buy 2 last time, so where did I put that one? I just finished the cable breaking parts with the angle grinder for grown-ups. And then it's time for a bit more sanding, because that's the best part of this hobby of mine. Do you remember that I said I would glue the light bulb into the wood itself? Well, I had a bright moment this weekend, and I figured I could just put a screw in there for the magnet to attach to. And that works perfectly, so happy me. Except that, do you also remember that hole I drilled for the charging port? Well, yeah, it's kind of useless now, so I had to do a small patch up. So while I fix my mistakes in the background, I will introduce the finish. It's called a bead buffing system. The system part is related to something one would add to its lathe. I don't have one, so turns out, get it, that the finish is great for round objects. So you have to use a buffer wheel and apply like 2 layers of 5 and a 10K grit, and then a final round of wax to finish it off. It is super annoying to apply, but it looks really stunning. Plus I paid good money for it, so I'll suffer through the application process to make up for my spending habits. It is almost time for the final review. I would like to say that this project was a lot of fun to make, and I really enjoyed working on it. Now I can only hope that you had fun watching all this. Do consider using the subscribe, like and comment features that YouTube has to offer. I would also like to thank my family and offer my sincere apologies to my neighbors for the noise. Thanks, bye.